Good afternoon and welcome on in. It's Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. It's the number one tennis betting podcast and YouTube show brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. I am Nigel Seeley. It's our final podcast and show before the Wimbledon Championships, and before I introduce you to Sean Calvert, who has been wined, he's been dined by our subscribers over in Mallorca. I'm going to tell you now, you please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please let you know your thoughts on the show, but most importantly, subscribe to our newsletter, bettingweeklystudios.com. There is going to be a Wimbledon special coming this Friday, and it'll be delivered in your inbox for free. All the stuff we do here is for free, and we want you to enjoy the content. Wimbledon around the corner. But before we have to do it, we've got the business end. It's the tournament over in Mallorca and in Eastbourne in the UK. And over in Mallorca is our senior A-School handicapper. It is Sean Calvert. Good afternoon, Sean.
Good afternoon. What time is it now? 5? 6? I'm getting lost with the times here.
Well, evening.
6 o'clock. Good evening. Yeah.
Buenas
tardes, as they would say in España. You all right?
I'm very well. How was the tennis today? You was at the tennis today. Anyone who followed Sean at the tennis today would have seen at Because We Win. I think we were a bit unlucky with that move. Extremely unlucky with that move.
I don't even want to talk. Well, I'll talk about it, but I don't really want to talk about it. Only Corentin Moutet could do that. He was 108 to 91 ahead in the service points won and return points won total of that match, and he didn't cover a 2.5 handicap. I mean, I should say I'm not gonna go too heavy on Moutet because it was unbelievably windy there today. It was the one good thing about the temperature, because I've been talking all week about how hot it is and all that, and it was hot, but it was so windy. It was like gale force winds on that main stand today, so it was much cooler for the spectators. But the players, I don't know whether you saw the Moutet match, but there was all sorts going on. There was shanks, miss hits. It was virtually unplayable out there. It does suit Moutet's style of play because he's got such variety, such good movement, so nimble. He can play all the shots. So I don't think it inconvenienced him that much, but that's just unlucky. It's just a bad beat. It's one of them bets, isn't it? -2.5 was the bet. He ended up -2, didn't he? So we lost by one game. He had so many chances to break serve. I think the first set was the main problem. He had 5 or 6 breakpoint chances in the first set, didn't take any, ended up having to win it in a tie break. So lucky that one. You know, the bet was statistically accurate. As I say, he won by 108 or 109 to 91, something like that. So he should have covered the 2.5, but probably because of the wind, he didn't. And he had a bit of an injury as well, of course, after the first game.
I think the injury was the key point here. I mean, he still won by 2 games, even with an injury. I mean, I landed at Gatwick Airport, and I messaged you, said, what's going on here? Because it was going with serve, and it was plus 130. So still with an injury,
it was the first game.
He won by 2, so yeah, it was a bet that should have cashed. Really
should have done. I mean, I didn't see the first game because the bus took an absolute age to turn up. The little bus that they have.
Ubers, Sean, we're in Mallorca. We're not out in like.
It's a courtesy bus. It's a courtesy
bus. It's boiling hot. It's
walk,
107 degrees. No. What are you doing on the bus?
No. You walk to the roundabout at the bottom. They don't have Ubers here, by the way. So that's out. They have them in Palma.
Taxi.
Yeah, you don't need it. You walk 10 minutes to the roundabout, and then there's a courtesy bus which just goes round and round and round and round all day long. You just wait for that, and it takes like 5 minutes to get there. Easy. The problem was today. It was for some reason it took about 15 minutes to show up. So by the time I got into the stands, he'd already played the first game and he'd already been injured. So by the time I got in, I sat down and he was sitting down having a medical timeout. So, that wasn't great. But yes, the injury might have played a part. It didn't look that serious, to be honest with you. But it didn't seem like it affected him for the match. But I'm sure it probably did in some way. He was having a go at the crowd as well, by the way. There's some German guys next to me who was getting really into it with the crowd, Moutet. The umpire had to say, and I've never heard this at a tennis tournament. He had to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, please, can you stop interacting with the players, please?" I've never heard anyone say that.
Like Lagan Sports Day. Sounds like Lagan Sports Day, this kind of stuff.
I'm long over Lagan Sports Day. Because he was German, obviously, Altmaier. There's historically, and there's always tons of Germans in Mallorca. It's just a thing. So, he was getting quite a bit of support. And there's just one group, I think, that had a couple of beers at this stage, and they were getting into it with Moutet, and he was giving it to them back. It was all going on. And the big price bet that would have landed, by the way, probably would have been about 100 to 1 for Mute not to get the first code violation, which was Altmaier, because he smashed the ball out the stadium and he got the first code violation. So it was all happening, but ultimately we lost by one game.
Bit unlucky.
Yeah.
Bit unlucky. But you bumped into some of our subscribers, one of our subscribers, George.
Yeah, shout out to George. Yeah, good to meet George. He's a regular watcher of the show. We had a good chat for about, about 10, 15, 20 minutes or something. So, always nice to meet the subscribers and followers of the show. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, really nice to meet the subscribers. Everywhere we go, we always get people to come up to us and say, well done on the shows, etc. But we don't really see if you subscribe, and we need you to subscribe for the show. Anyway, enough about Sean's Day. If you want to follow Sean's Day tomorrow, you can follow it on the Instagram account @BecauseWeWin. It's all about tomorrow's matches. Now, you're going home tomorrow. Well,
yeah.
We can see you eat you can have a toasted cheese sandwich at the airport. We can see you having an Evian water at the departure lounge.
If you
Rock
want.
and roll lifestyle.
I can arrange that if you want. Yeah.
Let's move on to the tennis action. That's what we're here for. We're here talking about tennis. And obviously, in Mallorca, we have a couple of matches to talk about. The first match we are going to talk about is Medjedovic against Felix Auger-Aliassime. Now, these matches aren't the most exciting matches because the way these matches are sort of crammed in, the order of play is crammed in so quickly after the order of play, the match is still going on because they have to get them all done before a major. So don't complain that we missed this match or missed that match. This is what we have at this particular moment in time.
Exactly.
And the match we have is Medjedovic against Auger-Aliassime. Felix Auger-Aliassime is a favourite, -230. Medjedovic is +180, spread 2.5. Total here is 23.5. They were supposed to meet once this year in Doha, but Medjedovic wasn't able to play in that match. It was a walkover for
It was after that Tsitsipas, wasn't it? Sorry to butt in there. It was after that ridiculous match with Tsitsipas, wasn't it, where he won on one leg, Medjedovic, if you remember it, and he literally couldn't move by the end of the match, could he?
Well, he had to retire. But anyway, Medjedovic here has won 2 matches here. Turned a bit of form around because his form coming into hasn't been that great. He's won 2 matches. He beat our pick, Safin, which was a big win, but Safin should have won that match. I mean, that's another story. We don't want to go on about that as well. Auger-Aliassime had a good win against Rinderknech. That was a good win against Rinderknech. And Felix Auger-Aliassime is someone that on grass I think is capable of doing so much more. He is a heavy favourite here. Medjedovic is an underdog. Week before Wimbledon, -230, should be betting them. Before we go into the matches, what's the weather conditions like? What the trends like? And then come into this match.
Yeah, so the weather, it has been ridiculously hot. It's not normally this hot in Mallorca. It's normally about 27, 28, maybe getting up to 30. It's been way more than that. It was more than 30 degrees when I went down for breakfast this morning. So, but I think we've hit the peak of it. I think the peak was today. And it was just fortunate there was a lot of wind that kind of counteracted that a bit. But it's still going to be very hot tomorrow, 32 degrees. Remember, this is in the shade. It's not 32 on the court. It's a lot warmer than that. It's probably pushing 40 on the court. I mean, it's still 30 degrees by 7 p.m. here. At the minute, it's not dropping below 25 at all at any part of the day or night. So it's whatever time this match is scheduled for, it's going to be played in sort of 30-degree temperatures. Just looking at the conditions, actually, of the first 16 matches that were played here, 50% of them went over 2.5 sets, which for me was very surprising given the heat here. You would think that, and the week before Wimbledon, you would think if a player loses the first set, he would kind of, and he goes a break down in the second, that'll be that. But 50% of the matches going over 2.5 sets, very surprising. But only 2 of the first 16 matches here featured a tiebreak. So, yeah, interesting and slightly peculiar conditions here in Mallorca.
So, Medjedovic, Felix Auger-Aliassime, where's the value on this one?
Yes, let me scroll down the page. I'm on the wrong one here. Yeah, I mean, I watched all of that Medjedovic match yesterday. 2.5 sets. Safin should have won it. If people didn't see it, I don't know what was shown on TV, but Medjedovic was certainly kind of bending over and kind of spitting on the floor a little bit. He was struggling. He wasn't sick, but I don't think he was a million miles away, which is another reason why it was so disappointing that Safin lost. I mean, Safin won that match 103-97 in terms of service points won and return points won totals. Safin won miles more second serve points, like way more, 70% to like 50% or something. But he won the match, Medjedovic, because for one reason for me, because he's not afraid. He goes for everything all the time. He's not afraid to miss. You could perhaps argue that he goes for too much at times, but I'd probably rather him go for too much and miss it than do what Saflin does, which is just tighten up and kind of forget how to play. That's what won him that match against Saflin yesterday. He went for it. Hasn't played many matches on grass at main level, just 5 in his career. 60% win rate, service points won and return points won, total of 101. Pretty decent considering he's, it's a start of his grass career. Felix, better statistics as you would expect. 63% win rate, service points won and return points won, total of 104. Very respectable grass numbers. Both of these guys doing a lot with their first serve. Felix winning 80% on first serve, holding serve 90% of the time on this surface. Medjedovic, 76% first serve points won, 89% holds. But in a typical way of the big servers, they don't win enough return points. They both win 33.5% of return points. Not quite enough. But the interesting thing about Medjedovic is that he feels like one of those players that does enjoy playing the best. He's won 3 of his 5 matches against top 20 opponents. He beat Tsitsipas in that epic match that I mentioned was it Dubai or Doha? I think it could have been Doha. When Tsitsipas should have won, Medjedovic was completely out on his feet, couldn't walk, ended up just, as I said before, he went for everything in that final set tiebreak and he ended up winning. He's beaten Medvedev convincingly. He's beaten Holger Rune convincingly. If you look at what he's done in total against top 20 opponents, 5 of his 8 matches against top 20 opposition have gone over 22.5 games. Of the 3 that didn't, one was 22 games, one was 20 games, and the other one was when he beat Medvedev very easily. So that came in under. This just, given the statistics that I've mentioned, this just feels like it's going to be long. The stamina, though, is a real worry for me with Medjedovic. I've mentioned it before on this show and in my videos on Instagram and whatnot. He doesn't look the fittest to me. I always think there's a physical letdown somewhere along the way with him. I quite like the 2-1 to Felix here. When I looked earlier, it was a plus 255 chance of Bet Rivers. I just think he'll just have slightly too much Felix, but I think it'll be a tight game. Over the totals is another possibility. Over 2.5 sets is another possibility. But for a big price, I'd probably take the 2-1 to Felix here.
2-1 Felix is the advice from Sean. It's a lean from Sean. Over 23.5 is minus 108 Bet Rivers. 29 different markets. Look at the game markets. That's the way we could anticipate Medjedovic against Felix, Auger-Aliassime to go. And remember, if you do have a bet on the match, you'll be able to live watch the match on your mobile device, stream the match on your mobile device or your tablet. Now we're moving on to our second match. Now we are looking at a game between Gabriel Diallo and Tallon Griekspoor. Now Gabriel Diallo has come from nowhere to be a serious contender for Wimbledon, outsider who's got a great chance. He's now favourite against Tallon Griekspoor on grass. Now, who would have thought that 3 weeks ago? No chance. But obviously, we bet Diallo to win the tournament a couple of weeks back on grass. He'd done the business for us at 20-1. Griekspoor here is plus 102 to beat Diallo, minus 127. Spread is 1.5. Total a very high 24.5. Diallo's played an awful lot of tennis. 8-1. 9 matches, 8-1, compared to Griekspoor, who just played the 1 match, which he won here against Quinn, which was a good win. He obviously retired against Zverev in the French Open in the round of 16. But Diallo, the question mark here for Diallo, there's no doubt about it. Diallo has been a really improving player. Somebody who's moving up the ranking, someone who's so good on grass, looks really comfortable, got a massive forehand, big serve, every attribute you want. But he must be absolutely knackered.
That's the problem. That's the thing you got to weigh up this week before the major. Is he riding the wave and thinking, yeah, go on then, I can win another title here, or is he thinking, hang on a minute, I've done a bit much here. I fancy my chances at Wimbledon. He's obviously quite low ranked, so he could be a nightmare round 1 for somebody. So what's he going to do? That's the question. I was fortunate to meet him the other day. Actually, very nice guy as well. Actually, very polite guy. Very nice and enjoyable to meet him. I congratulated him on his win in Rosmalen. But this match here, I mean, it's got to be a serve-dominated encounter, you would think, given everything. When I looked at this earlier, Griekspoor was slight favourite. Now he's gone out quite a bit actually to plus 102. If you look at what they've done in terms of their head-to-head. That they met at Roland Garros at the French Open, not even 3 or 4 weeks ago. Griekspoor won it, but the service points won and return points won totals of 100 to 100. Like exactly 100.0 to 100.0. There was nothing in it at all, but Griekspoor ended up getting ahead early in the fourth set and was able to see it out, but there was nothing in it. But look at what Diallo's done on grass, main level this season. Service points won and return points won total of 105, 93% holds of serve, 77% first serve points won. And that's kind of what I was hoping that he was going to do when I took him to win Rosemont. A lot of that was based on the fact that he beat Cerundolo in straight sets on clay at the French Open. I knew he'd have a good game for the quicker surfaces, but to beat Cerundolo on clay in straight sets, that's very impressive. This guy's going places at the minute. Those stats are really, really good on grass. Griekspoor, we go back to his last 17 matches on grass. Service points won and return points won total of 100. 88% holds, 75% first serve points won. So not as good as what we've seen from Diallo. Griekspoor, they're coming at this in opposite ways, really. Diallo arguably might have played too much tennis. Griekspoor maybe hasn't played enough. He's only played that one match since the French Open. So Diallo is certainly well ahead of him in terms of being attuned to playing on grass. Which is why when I initially wrote this down, I was toying with the idea of taking Diallo as slight underdog. That option has disappeared now. He's minus 127. The other interesting thing is the ATP do this statistic on their site, which is called pressure points, which supposedly shows how well a player performs on the big points, like the 30-all, 30-40, these points. Diallo is number 13 in the world in that category. Griekspoor's 26. Safilin, incidentally, is number 80, but don't get me started on him. So yeah, I mean, whatever way you look at this, it's looking like a serve-dominated affair. I mean, Diallo won 83% on first serve against Laszlo Djere yesterday. Griekspoor 80% on first serve against Quinn. He kind of blasted him off the court a little bit, really, and both only winning 33% on return. So it looks like a serve-dominated affair. If you're going to bet it, I would suggest over 10.5 games in set one. Looks pretty good at around about plus 140 with Bet Rivers. That's probably where I'd go here. Just another side point on Griekspoor, incidentally. I've talked about him many times in terms of his coaches. He's actually back with Christoph Vliegen now, Griekspoor, for the third time in his career. He's now back with Vliegen. They split, I think it was about 7 months ago. They originally split up. It was actually Vliegen that initiated that. And he said, and I quote, "Tallon and I have grown too close after a working relationship of 10 years. So they split up 7 months later. They're back together again. There you go.
It looks like a genuine 50-50 call, this, doesn't it? I mean, to me, this is a minus 112. You have a go. Because Diallo is the form horse. Griekspoor is the player with the better grass court experience.
Mm-hmm.
As you say, someone hasn't played a lot of tennis. Someone's played an awful lot of tennis. Both of them might fancy their chance at Wimbledon this year to go quite deep, get a big paycheck. It's a minus 110. And I love the way you're thinking there. Going on the first set over, play it out for the first set. And I think whoever wins the first set, the other person might jack it in a little bit. So I love the over 10.5. I think it's a really good play. Is that going to be one of our official plays? I
think it's the best play of the limited selection of matches we've got today, for sure. If these two come out, as long as someone doesn't drop serve in the first game or two, you would expect that it would go pretty tight. It's going to come down to a couple of points here and there, you would think.
Yeah, over 10.5 games with Bet Rivers, 29 different markets available on this one. Available now on the app. Download the app, Bet Rivers. Head across to the website as well. Check it out. I think about 5 o'clock Eastern time, early start tomorrow morning. Remember, there is the Betting Weekly newsletter coming out for you on Friday. We're going to go through the Betting Weekly Insider. It's going to be a Wimbledon special. All the handicappers here, doing the tennis handicappers, giving their best bets. They're giving the players they want to fade, the outsiders to follow, the players to follow for Wimbledon. And we have the live draw special, Friday, 5 a.m. Eastern time, live. The live draw will be going through live. We'll have myself, Rory Giovanni, And we'll have Tim Dennis going through the bracket, giving you all the best bets as well. And then the newsletter will be out as well. So loads of Wimbledon content. Hit that subscribe button. We want to get that 10,000 subscribers. Now, we move from Mallorca to Eastbourne. And we've got one match, only one match we're going to talk about. There's no props available on this match because obviously these matches are just breaking out now. So when you go across to the BetRivers website, 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, there'll be loads of these markets here. Humbert is up against Billy Harris, the Brit. Minus $3 for Humbert, plus 225 for Billy Harris. I'm guessing it'll probably be around about 2.5 spread. I'm guessing the total will probably be around about 22.5, 23.5, somewhere around those kind of lines. But the Frenchman is an overwhelming favourite here. There is no head-to-head between the two of them. Humbert come through a good match against Sonego. We thought he might win. Sean thought he might win quite convincing. He did. But Harris has had 2 good wins. Hasn't dropped the set yet against Norrie and Bellucci. And he's going to have the home support. We've seen what happened before in a pre-Wimbledon match when we took Humbert against Ryan Pedersen. Could happen again.
You had to mention that again, didn't you?
Well, it has to be mentioned, because it's still one of the most bitterest days of my betting career.
Yeah, it was. Well,
because we went there.
We were there
with the Ryan Pedersen camp.
That's right.
We got tickets from the Ryan Pedersen camp, and we bet Humbert to win it. So he had to make out. I had to make out. I was really happy for him having the biggest win of his career. But I actually bet Humbert to win the tournament, and it was an awful day.
Yeah, he's a strange customer, Humbert. He's either on it or he isn't. I mean, I said in the Sonego match that I just felt like he'd had a lot of bad luck recently, and that matchup against Sonego when they'd played on quick conditions, i.e., not clay, then I just felt like that was a very good situation for Humbert. And if anyone took the lead, and I think it was minus 2.5 games, I think that came in pretty easily, didn't it? I think, pretty sure that did. As far as Harris is concerned, I mean, he should be well attuned to playing left-handers by now. Obviously, Humbert's a left-hander. He beat Cam Norrie, who's a left-hander. He's just beat Bellucci, who's a left-hander. So he should be in fine shape for playing another left-hander. He's really on it. He's just played 2 in a row. Got back into the tournament as a lucky loser, Harris. He lost in qualifying to Lofhagen, who very nearly beat Riley Opelka yesterday. And he's got a very good record on grass, Billy Harris. You've got to watch these British players in these sort of pre-Wimbledon grass court tournaments. He made the semi-finals here last year, Billy Harris. He was only 1 set away from the final. Lost in the final set to Max Purcell, I think it was. So he's got form here. He also made the quarterfinals at Queen's the week prior. He made the last 16 as a qualifier in Newport on the grass. That was 4 matches that he played there to get that far. So this is a guy that knows his way around a grass court better than most. What he's done in Eastbourne in the main draw is impressive in his career. He's won 4 of his 5 matches here. Service points won and return points won, total of 103. 92% holds of serve. 76% first serve points won. That's good. This is not a guy to take lightly on this surface in these conditions. And if we look at what he's done in all of his grass matches at main level, not quite as impressive, but still pretty decent. 58% win rate. Service points won and return points won, total of 98. 88% holds of serve, which is very, very good. And Humbert, as you mentioned with the Peniston stuff, he sometimes he just doesn't show up. He was great today against Sonego. Apparently, obviously didn't see the match, but so I understand. But does that mean he's going to be good tomorrow? Well, not really. He might be. He might not. His grass court main level stats, they're okay. They're not as good as you would think. 57% win rate. It's not even as good as Billy Harris. And a service points won and return points won, total of 102. It's all right, but it's not frightening. Billy Harris shouldn't be worried about this guy particularly. Given that they've never played, given that Harris is in great form against left-handers, he's playing another lefty. I haven't got the totals or anything like that yet, but I suspect this will go overs. I imagine it will probably be 22.5 or 23.5 probably. I would probably go with either that or the over 2.5 sets. I think Humbert might have to, or even the set 1 overs, because as I say, they've not met before. Might take Humbert a little bit of time to work him out. Set 1 overs is, I haven't seen the odds, but I would imagine that's probably the best way to go.
Overs, head across to the Rivers website, 5 a.m. roughly around the order of play tomorrow. So later on this evening, there will be matches. There will be odds, on these matches. Well, lots of matches, lots of odds. There'll be 29 different markets available in this match. So over is the way we want to play here. Billy Harris is a very, very competent player on the grass as well. And I think he'll give Humbert some kind of struggle. Plus 14.95 units if you followed all our picks on the show so far this year, and heading into Wimbledon in good shape. And talking of Wimbledon, it's all happening here on the Betting Weekly Studios website and on the YouTube channel. BettingWeeklyStudios.com is where you want to go for the newsletter. The Wimbledon guide will be out on Friday, as I keep saying. Keep subscribing. Loads of content coming. And this is our final show before Wimbledon. And on Saturday, myself and Sean will be going through the first round draw. We're looking at the matches. Myself and Roy Giovanni, we're looking at the women's draw and also the first round match as well. So 4 shows we'll be recording on Saturday, which will go live across the weekend. And on Friday, obviously at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 o'clock in the UK. As the draw evolves live, we'll be giving you the in-play. We're looking at, not the in-play. We'll be giving you the reaction. Looking at the reaction, telling you where the best bracket is, who's the player who's got the best draw, who's the player who's got the worst draw, the players you want to fade, the players you want to be with, and we'll be talking about that, discussing it. So your Wimbledon journey with us here on Betting Weekly Studios starts from Friday and continues for the next 2 weeks. Loads of shows as well. Betting Weekly Tennis Live, Monday through to Wednesday as well for your live best in play. Betting Weekly Live covering the Club World Cup. And also we have the American shows, Betting Weekly Fast Break and Betting Weekly Hard Ball, with Doug Kazarian and his team of American handicappers throughout the evening. So whatever your sport, whatever your action, we have you covered here on the Betting Weekly Studios. And all we ask you to do is hit that subscribe button. That's it for this week. That is it for the tournaments before Wimbledon. Wimbledon is here. And next show we'll do, we'll be covering Wimbledon for you. Sean, safe journey home. Take care.
Thank you.
And if you want to follow Sean on his journey home, see his delays,
there might be a Magnus or
choice. See him having a Magnus at the departure lounge. You can follow that at Because We Win across all our socials. That's it for this week. Next up, Wimbledon. Take care.